Okay, hello, everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera of the Live Discussions with Diamond podcast. And this here truly is a special episode that I have. And tonight we have here a person that I consider a friend, a mentor, a person with great advice, a man of many talents, the one and only Chomio.
Hey, thank you, Diamond. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate you making the time to put me on here.
Absolutely, my brother. I mean, to be honest, I can honestly say I feel like me and you go way back. I mean, for me, being a dancer for so many years and being influenced by your brother and that family at dance sport, and for so many years, your family and your collective has brought New York some of the most infamous dance socials. And we're not just talking about salsa socials, we're also talking about bachata socials. I mean, from your media team to the flyers to the performers that come in and out of your spaces. I mean, today honestly is a true celebration of one of the very important people at this Salsa Mania family.
I appreciate that, bro. Those are some big, kind words there, bro.
Now,
Very
I
big,
mean,
kind words.
I mean, you can honestly feel like this is for me. I could say is a long time coming, and these are things that I've truly thought about because I think, especially with everything we're going through, it allowed a lot of us to kind of self-reflect and understand. For me and my dance community, the people that truly deserve the recognition.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, it's this whole year has like after the pause, after everything got shut down, and the socials were pretty much non-existent at that point. It really made it created a void that everybody needed to be filled. And when it was gone and people were constantly messaging us, when are you going to open up again? What are we like? We miss it. And it was, it really made us, it felt really special. And to know that people really cared and people really wanted to be at our socials.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you come to think about it, the many years that Alex and Maestro himself, the man has been around for so many years, but him and people like yourself and Franklin Ronzo and Josh, and honestly, so many others that had been a part of that collective at one point in time, to realize how many events that you guys have thrown, how many photos, how many visuals. I mean, the hours and hours of editing that you probably have done throughout your life is ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely. Ever since Alex took me in 2011, I don't even know how many photos my camera has taken. Actually, it's been an upgrade since three cameras. So three cameras went through Salsa Mania.
Wow. And like you said, 2011. And I think that's really kind of where we're taking this back because people have seen throughout the years everything you've been able to accomplish. But really, I love understanding how it started. And I definitely, like you said, 2011 was where you came on board with this type of event. But, for me, I would love to know, since we're taking it way back, like, how did that inspiration come to actually become a part of the Salsa Mania collective?
It wasn't really an inspiration. It was really more of needing a summer job. So basically, back then I was still in high school, and in 2010 I came back from Pakistan. So I was fresh from Pakistan, and I was basically kind of new to New York, and it was just a whole different experience. Like when I was a little kid to being a teenager in high school. So 2010 was for summer 2010 was my year back. The next summer was when I was thinking like, you know what, I'm gonna need a summer job. So I ended up did finding one, but then Alex just was doing the salsa socials, and at the time I didn't know how to dance.
Yeah.
I wasn't that into salsa, and I was just thinking, it's just what he does. That's his thing. Everybody has their thing. And one day he just hit me up and he was like, "Listen, I need a photographer for this weekend. Do you know how to use a camera?" I'm like, "Absolutely not. I've never used a camera before." And he was like, "Okay, but you're pretty tech savvy." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty good with technology
Yeah.
for sure." And he's like, okay, here's a camera, use it. So I was like, okay. So I went, and it was, I was completely blown away and overwhelmed with the experience of it. Even though it was only 1 year into it, like from the moment Salsa Mania opened till the day I joined, which was summer 2011, just close to getting into the second anniversary of Salsa Mania. So at that point, it was just wow, like this is really cool, and I got to meet a lot of people. And I think you were around then at the
Yeah.
same time with your long hair.
Yes, and I had the long mane looking like a lion. Like
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. We go way back because
very.
it's crazy that you say that because I still remember when Alex was telling me he was going to throw an event. And I remember Alex when he had the bandana at Club Cache, when he was working with them and then Mambo Fatigues. And then when I saw him in the process of creating these type of events, I really loved it because if people didn't understand, when you had a place like Club Cache and you had a really good DJ like Alex, there were people that were going to gravitate towards him and say, hey, where are you playing next? So, but for Alex, who wasn't a dance director, a studio owner, to take the reins and say, I'm going to create my event and create a system or a place, a safe space for artists that can come and realizing over the many, many years in the future, the hundreds of dancers that have like fluctuated in and out of dance sport.
Yeah, especially through transport, definitely.
Yeah.
So, the location was one already because it was a dance sport. It's a studio known for dancers. And then secondly, the New York salsa scene was already thriving. It
Yeah.
was already you had Caribbean Soul, you had many other teams who were made the salsa scene very popular in New York. And then, Alex, he knew what he saw was happening, and the shift was changing. It was
Yeah.
becoming, socials were evolving, things were like the times were moving forward. So Alex, then he wanted to do a social. He wanted to bring us. He wanted to, as you said, create a space where everybody could join in and enjoy good music, because that was the one thing Alex really enjoyed: good
Yeah.
music. Honestly, the credit really goes to Gonzo, because Gonzo was really into music. He's a musician. He's a producer. He's a software engineer. He, before us becoming a software engineer, he did all that. And that was a big inspiration for Alex. Maybe he'll say otherwise, but like in the end of the day, Gonzo was really the one who showed him the ropes and really taught him how to handle things and put things together. Music wise, production wise.
Yeah, and that's important because when you're talking about Gonzo, we're talking about because and if what I understand, it's yourself, Gonzo, and Alex, the brothers, and I know Gonzo is in Texas,
That's right. He lives in Texas.
and he was a part of the Houston Salsa Congress. Am I correct?
Yeah. Oh man, that was when it was first starting. That's when it was first starting, and I remember seeing pictures of Gonzo with just on a stage
Yeah.
with a foldable chair, foldable table, and just two speakers in a whole auditorium.
Wow.
And
And then
now look at it today with like you see these gigantic speakers that are like 20 feet tall, and it really shows how much like when the more effort that they put into it, it grew into something very big.
yeah, because again, like you said, the New York City salsa scene in particular was thriving around, especially the 2009, 2010, 11 time. Again, what you started to notice was people like Alex now saying being a DJ and having an understanding of the people. You know what the people want. They want a good space with good floors, but most of all, they want good music. And realizing that what Alex started to create was turned into a weekly social that people knew they can go to almost every Friday and Saturday, because you had Salsa Mania, you had Candela Fridays, and then in the future you had Bachata Mania. But even kind of going even before that, you being now kind of the photographer or kind of getting into it, I remember you said there was a gentleman by the name of Franklin Liranzo.
That's right.
And this was, I believe, the original photo and the video guy for Salsa Mania when it first started.
That's right. So Franklin at the time was also still a beginner. He was, and you probably even consider him an amateur because he was still learning. He was fresh to it, and he was very experimental at the time. And he really used Salsa Mania as his training ground.
Yeah.
Like for new ideas and practicing new skills. And what better place to work with so many subjects in a matter of one night. It's like a photographer's perfect practice ground. So yeah, Franklin was a good friend of Alex, and Ricardo was there too.
Yes.
And they were all three of them basically came up with the plan to launch a social where they could work it together. And honestly, it was such a great investment in terms of getting Franklin involved with it, because if you really think about it, that was when technology and social media was really, really exploding.
Yeah.
YouTube exploded in 2009. Facebook was happening in 2000. Yeah, sorry, Facebook in 2009. YouTube was already big from 2007.
Yep.
And then after, you had places like Instagram, which was brand new at the time, extremely new. So people, want, like, in having a photographer to capture those moments and then already start with this promotional, instead of getting in traditional media, it was more digital media. And that really was the kind of, driving force into really getting Salsa Mania to the position where it is.
Yeah, and I think that helped because, like we've talked as well, what I noticed, especially with the event, like you said, you've had many different visual artists come in and out of this place, but realizing that a lot of times it was almost fun to kind of say, oh, Franklin took these photos, Shomeo took these photos, who took these visuals, and you can kind of feel who had their niche. And I love that because I really was amazed, especially in the beginning. And like you told me too, your photography has gotten a lot better since the earlier days.
Absolutely.
but realizing too was that I loved was that you guys also were paying attention not to just the artists, but you were paying attention to the attendees. And what I mean is, when we're looking at photos of past events, everyone is used to just seeing the professionals.
That's right. Yeah.
But I think that really for me was special, was seeing that you also cared about the people that paid their money.
Absolutely.
Because if people are coming to these events and they know they have a chance just to get seen, maybe it's one photo, sometimes that means the world. And realizing that you guys took the time to give everyone equal time, that's a rarity, honestly.
It was a hard thing to get used to at the beginning, because sometimes when at the beginning, it was very easy to get into that habit. It was very easy to build it, because the whole idea was that when you're starting off something new, the first few people that come through the door, you want to give them all the attention. You get so excited seeing those people walk through your door. Those first 10, 20 people that are there to come and dance at your social and give it a try. It's a very nice high, and you want to give them a reason to keep coming back and have them tell their friends, yo, let's go here because this is really fun. So we wanted it. Alex's idea was really just create a space where people can come in and really enjoy and just kind of like get a feel of everything. Because the whole idea, I could be wrong, but I feel like his passion for it really came after attending congresses or just seeing, Club Cache or like the salsa scene as what it is.
Yeah.
And then many times people would come in and they'd be like coming with their own cameras and everything, or coming with their own, like, I don't know if Shazam was still a thing at the time, but, they would always bother people for like, music or everything. So, keeping in mind that these people want to listen to good music. That was the main focus. And then on top of that, give them a reason to remember it. And then after having the photos is like a very nice souvenir from it. You get the photos probably within a few days. It's uploaded on Facebook. You get tagged. They share it. it's like instant promotion.
Absolutely. So, a question I definitely have is, as you started to come more comfortable with the photo, with doing photography, and the time has passed by, can you honestly say, in your opinion, when you started to realize that the event that your brother was holding and that you were a part of was really becoming or kind of separating itself from many other events in the city? Because, in my opinion, I would say, even from the initial inception of the event, you slowly started to build that fan base.
Yeah, and honestly, it was really all Alex's work because he there were actually a lot of people that are not even mentioned mainly because they don't want to be
Yeah.
mentioned. So like the person who does the flyers, Alex has a separate person for that. People who make certain videos, he has other people for that. Like there's like 2 3 people that don't get mentioned at all, but
Mm.
they do put in a lot of work. So the flyers that you see, it's not Alex, it's not me, it's not Franklin, it's somebody else,
Oh, wow.
and she pushes it for like all the time. Like Alex would send in a photo, she would get it done the same day or probably
Mm.
the next day, and then she would send it for review. And it like it's like for the like Alex has a whole team under his belt, and it's really just been years of going along that path, moving along the way, and trying to create a better product, creating a better scene. And then along, he's kept the same person. The same flyer that you see in the beginning is the same person that's making the flyers now.
Wow. I mean, and that's a surprise for me because I always thought you guys were in some way in charge of doing all of that.
No, because Alex actually at the beginning was trying to do it himself, but then he needed somebody to do it for him because it was too much. It's like putting that
Yeah,
all together. It's a lot.
it is.
It's a lot of graphic time. So Alex needed somebody to do it. So he found that lady, and she's been doing it since.
Wow. So then, understanding where the event was kind of going, and you slowly, or not even slowly, it was kind of just almost immediate because Alex had that great relationship with the community already, them
Yeah.
knowing him. But I really love too is that you guys as a media collective really interacted with the dancers as well. So I think that helped build great relationships. But one thing I can say, what I loved about dance sport, how spacious it was, and I would call it like the infamous backstage where, you're meeting artists that, for me as a dancer, I revered and I idolized. I can just go to the back room and have a conversation with them. I mean, for you, like you said, you didn't really have the affinity for the dancing, but from my opinion, I slowly started to see you kind of gain a liking to it, and you kind of started learning.
I did. No, it was more like, just because you're not passionate or you're not in love with it doesn't mean you can't put effort to learn it.
Yes.
It's that's what I saw about like salsa was, I probably didn't start taking my first salsa class till I was probably maybe 2015,
Mm.
4 years after I joined Salsa Mania.
Yeah.
So it was just like I was going and I'm like, what, this is probably, why not? If I'm
Yeah.
gonna be there, I don't want to be just standing there doing nothing. So that would kind of like push me to do more. And going back to what you said about, be having dancers come in, and it was such a big space, and indeed it was. You
Yeah.
had the main floor where all the dancing was happening, and then you had the VIP lounge, or I like to call it the hangout lounge.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. Alex, you're pretty sure you remember Alex yelling at us all the time. He's like, "Where are my photographers?"
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my God. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Just so many times that I would come in, the first person I would go to was your brother, and then the first thing he would ask me most of the time was, "Where's Chomia?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just got here, but I'll look for him for you."
Yeah. So it was, like Alex is so hard when it like comes to like his baby Salsa
Yeah.
Mania, and like that's his pride and joy, and he's always in like stress level 100, trying to make sure everything's working fine. He's having a good time. He's doing everything he can. He's, whatever he needs. And the only reason why I know he would really trust me with whatever was going on, no matter how much he was yelling, was how much he would drink and get drunk at the end of the night and have to pick up everything. So yeah, it was cool, because that space in that back room where people would just hang out, because these pros, people want to dance with them all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You have like 10 people in line to dance with Delia. If Ernesto's there, you have like 10 girls hanging out there. If anybody else is there, if like Shani or anybody who is
Yeah.
like in the leagues, and you be just like, there'd be lines for them. People
Yeah.
was like, can I dance with you? So there was a really nice, very comfy space for them to go and retreat and just chill.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I think what's even more special for yourself, what I noticed, like for me, I like I've told people, I met you when you kind of first came in and you was helping your brother, and to kind of see you over the years, I would say open up a lot more, because I knew,
yeah.
of course, you were reserved in the beginning, completely understood. But what I loved was that then, like you said, these back rooms where you have all of these artists. Evidently, the artists work with the photographers.
Right.
You guys have a collaboration of some sorts. But what I loved was that you created, I just could see the friendships and the bonds. But I think that also helped in your photography, because you could see a vision, or your eye was much different.
It was because I wouldn't say particularly that it improved my eye for it, but it became whenever. So till today, most of my clients have been dancers, and since I hang out with a lot of them, most of my friends are dancers. I understand for them what it's like to be a dancer. And then if they reach out to me and I get to do their photos, or even at venues taking their photos, it's nice to be a person that they know and acknowledge, because then it just makes the feel more natural. So if I'm in a venue and let's say Ernesto is dancing with Denise and they
Yeah.
see me taking the photos, they always freeze, giving a face, do something
Yeah.
cute and funny. Unlike if somebody else was to go and is like they probably don't know them, or it's just some rando, and it's just like some rando, and they're just knocking on the whatever, and they want to say like, "Oh, can I take your photo?" And then they're just like, "Oh, okay, whatever."
And funny you even say that, because I mean, me and you have talked privately, but me getting inspired by you to also do videography or just be in media, period, I learned a really like interesting lesson, was that dancers are people at the end of the day, but when you have a camera in your hand, it can be really fun or it can be really annoying and draining, because I've seen it, and I know you've seen it over the years. The dancers that have come in and out, whether they're professionals or social dancers, you're always going to have the highlights, but sometimes you're also going to have the lowlights, and you're going to have those moments when you have to, like, especially when you're trying to get a shot and you can see that someone is intentionally in your shot because they want to get seen.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's the opposite too, where many pro dancers would come in, and without naming them, they would stand in front of me, right in front of me, right in front of the DJ booth, where it's like really prime area for recording.
Yes.
They would start dancing there, and then when the lights get turned on, no, don't record.
Yeah, no, and that's something else, because I noticed that and I was like, wait. I realized, wow, these pros, they love to be seen by people, but when it's on like a camera, it's almost like a deer in the headlights moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like many of them, well, few of them have actually given me the reason that it's kind of like when you're dancing in front of a crowd you don't know, then having a video permanently uploaded into the cloud and never being able to unsee it. Because
I see.
no matter how many little or how many views it gets, it's still out there. And like one of them had a sty one of them had a scratch, one of them had a black eye, or one of them had like, a bad haircut, or one of them didn't have a haircut.
But you came to the event.
But you see, like that's where the you see the loyalty comes down to that.
Yes.
Like at the end of the day, sure, we're the media team, we're the photographer, we're the videographer, but that doesn't mean that we're gonna sit there and record you 24/7. Like, you're a person too. We at the prime thing, or the prime rule for our attendance is always, are you comfortable? Are you okay? Are you having fun? And if a camera in your face is giving you a hard time, or not making it fun for you, then okay, I'm not gonna put the camera in your face.
Yeah, that says something too, because I learned that from watching you when I started filming events. Was a trick that I would do is I would have my light with me and I would just flick it up just a little bit, just to see the reaction from these dancers. That was something I would do, because I'm noticing if I'm flicking it towards a specific direction, maybe I'm looking at someone else just to feel out that process. Because if you're already nervous about me filming someone close to you, what about when I get right next to you?
Right.
You know?
So that was what I used to do. So, like, my little trick was, I would have my light, my strobe, and it would have the flash on it. I would go around first really quickly. Like, let's say it's a 4-minute song.
Yeah.
At first 20-30 seconds, I'm running around taking photos of people, and I'm seeing who's reacting negatively or positively to it. So if I'm seeing the pros and they're having fun and they're posing for the photos, then what I would do is like, okay, I have 3 minutes left of the song. So I would go back, grab my light, and then I already know who's ready for it and who's not.
It's true. It's true.
And you'd be surprised. Like, some of them are camera ready. They look camera ready, but they're not at all. I've had many girls come up to me afterwards like, yo, when you were recording this, the guy with his hands were shaking so bad.
But you know what it is? I love is that even with all of those questionable things people can tell you, I love is that you knew how to make people look amazing. Even the most simplistic combinations people may do, or complex, you made it work. Because
it took a lot of practice.
No, absolutely, because I still remember when I'm just watching you film and I'm seeing the angles you're going in and I'm seeing the way you're moving, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Because a novice person with a camera will just put a camera here and not realize you might have an hour of footage, but don't use that hour on one person.
Right.
Because, I love too was the visuals that you and the other members would create, especially with the videos of having glimpses of different people dancing.
Just FYI, all those videos are Alex. Like, he put them all together. So like the way Alex and I have it is that I spent the whole night recording them.
Yes.
And capturing photos. That same night, he transfers over to his computer, and he would choose which ones he likes and put them together. And obviously, he's not going to put the ones where people are messing up or hitting each other.
Yeah.
We got a lot of hate and not a lot of hate, but a lot of flack many times throughout the years. Oh, you're only posting up pros. You only post pros. You only post these specific dancers. Why don't you put more focus on the beginners or anything like that? I'm like, it's not that we don't want to put them. It's mainly because they get either too shy, too reckless, or they're just straight up messing up.
Yeah.
And it's, and at the end of the day, we are a, business. We have to promote ourselves. We want ourselves to look the best. And, people have come to us saying that we are the best. And there's a reason. There was a formula to that success.
Absolutely.
It's like, if we're going to be the best, we have to look the best.
It's true.
I'm sorry. And
no, what are you saying?
Like, those, sometimes we put beginners in our videos, and we definitely do. Like, but if you're not messing up, we're just not going to put you in it.
And I love the honesty, because again, even though you are for the community and you guys have an event that is geared for everyone, the focus also people have to understand is you're focused on giving an appearance that allows dancers to come and all honesty feel like, wow, if I go to this event, I know I'm going to get a great dance with a lot of dancers. Again, there's a ratio because I love too was that at your events, you would not just have the pros, not just the beginners. You would have your everyday people, even coming from work. I
Yeah.
think we've even talked that you had someone coming in from the hospital in their scrubs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've met people that have gotten off of work, come to Salsa Mania, stayed all the way to about closing time, which is sometimes 3 or 4, and then to say, "Yeah, I got to work back at 7."
Oh yeah, actually I there are a few people that still do it.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's like we've gotten so used to like having them around. When we're packing up, they're still hanging out there, and they were hanging at the bar, or and they would be like, "Yo, do you need help with anything?" I'm like, "No, we're good. You go chill. You go chill."
so kind of now fast forwarding and just through the years you've been able to just see all of these performers, film all of these social events. I would love to know from, as the years are going by, do you remember any really amazing performers that like really just like, man, I'm enjoying filming them or taking photos of them?
Oh man, there are so many. Like you know, Salsa Mania was, people may agree, people may not, but Salsa Mania was one of the first socials to give a widespread platform to teams to come and perform. It was not really a huge thing. You would only see that type of habit in congresses.
Yeah,
But we made it a habit of ours to showcase local dance. Because like, what's the point of having a dance event if you can't go in and show off your
yeah,
dance team or your dance moves or whatever you're learning, you know, or whatever you want to give a trial run.
yeah,
But that was at the beginning, and then we had performers that would go to other obscure places and perform there, so that way they can perform it perfectly at Salsa Mania. When in the beginning we were that obscure spot
yep,
for congresses. And it was very cool to realize that our spot is now a place where performers want to come and make sure they hit it 100%.
yeah.
We've had people from Australia, like England, like probably New Zealand at one point as well. They Ace come in and say, "Look, it's my first time in New York. Salsa is a big thing in Melbourne. We love it over there."
Yep.
And I always saw your videos, and it was like one of my bucket lists to come and see Salsa Mania. And it was like it was almost it was surreal. Put
Yeah.
it that way. It was very surreal because my taste for Salsa Mania kind of, I got used to it
Yeah.
being at it since 2011. And, growing up with it, you kind of forget how long it's been and how much it's grown.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, your parents looking at you and thinking that you're still 3 years old when you're like a 30-year-old person.
I completely get it.
It's surreal. It's
No,
very
no,
surreal.
I definitely agree. Because myself throughout the years, me coming to the events, but always just honestly focused on seeing how you all were doing besides just dancers. What I loved was, again, that Salsa Mania really started to become that institution where dancers wanted to be at, they wanted to perform at, but also you got an influx of new dancers coming in. I can't tell you the amount of dancers that I've met maybe 5, 6 years ago, and almost now they're teachers. Now they're organizers of events themselves. But realizing what your brother has been able to create from having Salsa Mania, then having Candela Fridays, then having Bachata Mania, and realizing that was kind of, again, even as a promoter, as a organizer, you realize, okay, this is the place to be, this is the place people want to go to. All right, now let's create a Friday, so we have Friday and a Saturday, and it became mainly a weekly thing. So really it was kind of, you're there because realizing too, in New York, we have dance schools everywhere. We have dancers everywhere. We have socials. So, and seeing that, especially with Alex, he had something very profitable. And like you just said earlier, was that you had people from Australia realizing that the media you were putting out was the perfect promotion for the outside world.
Yeah, because New York was always known as a central area for dancers, period, for any kind. Whatever you are, whatever kind of genre you're in, New York was always that place. So when Salsa Mania happened, everybody just knew New York. If Salsa Mania's happened in New York, that means it's the shit.
Yeah.
It's definitely gonna be a bomb place to be at. So when it was just for a long ride, bro. It's just
Yeah.
like people come in and they tell us all these great things about us, and it's just it's good.
And honestly, I think it can maybe sometimes feel like a blur because you're just honestly like us as attendees, we're just having fun in the moment, but we also don't realize sometimes, but I realize, but a lot of people don't realize the attention that you don't have to you. Like you're so focused on getting the visuals you need that you forget track of time. By the time you're looking up, it's showtime.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's happened many times where I've just in the moment and I was like, oh man, it's almost midnight. I have to go take pictures of the performers. I gotta go check up on them. So I would go to the back and I see probably like one of the 7 teams performing or changed already. And I'll be yelling at them like, yo, we gotta go. Showtime is in 5 minutes when it's really in like 15 minutes. But, everybody got to get ready quick.
Absolutely.
And then I would have to rush, get their photo. That was actually the one thing that really helped me become a more comfortable photographer. You have 7 teams ranging between 2 to probably 10 people in each team.
Yeah.
And you have probably 10, 15 minutes to get everybody's photos done. So in that little time frame, getting all those people done and just knowing what looks good or what has to look good or how to make them look good if they don't really was good practice and a really good experience as just a photographer in its general basis.
And that speaks a lot because again, something you talked about a lot was the training kind of you got of over the years being able to trial and error the way you shoot things, the way you film things, the angles, the lighting. And I think especially with having these multitude of events that you guys had, like you said, the influx of different visual people,
Yeah.
That really helped as well because you kind of got a different look.
Mm-hmm.
It gave people kind of a break because I understand too is that as a visual person, you can burn out.
Yeah.
There's a point when you kind of need to take a break because it can be exhausting. That's why I've told you many times when it comes to photos, I give it up to you because the amount of like DMs and messages and like just comments like, hey, when is this coming out? Or can you send me this photo while I'm trying to edit 500 photos?
Yeah. What I love to do when people do that, and it became a very consistent thing, was people was like, oh, where can I get these photos? And I'm like, go to Facebook. Just go to Facebook. Just go to Facebook and you'll see it there. And it's like, and people are like, oh, can you send them to me? I'm like, no, check Facebook. And it's like, oh, can I didn't see my photo there. I'm like, well, it's not there.
Oh man, that's the funniest one because like when somebody's like, yeah, I was there all night, I didn't see my photo. I mean, I'm sorry.
In reality, it's like, oh man, honestly, Diamond, you have no idea how many hilarious photos or how many just like really disturbing photos I have.
Yes, I agree 110% because
people, yeah, this thing, people don't get it. Like, people are just saying like, oh, but I didn't see my photo or I didn't have this video. And I'm just thinking like, well, you don't want to see it.
You don't want, yeah. And because the people don't get it, like, even though we film, you don't understand when we go home, all of the footage we can put out, but so much more footage we don't put out.
Oh, hell yeah, no.
And this
I go to the forbidden file.
No, it's true. And this is the thing is like to have you on here, it means a lot to me because starting my visual media career, I really learned a lot from you, but kind of picking your brain. But what I loved was really your honesty and your transparency to the moments that you were in. Because I love that you weren't really a person of the scene at that moment. You were just, hey, my brother needed help. I'm here. I enjoyed this kind of scenery, but I have a life outside of here. And I love that you kind of had that really just complacent, content attitude, but realizing the effort it took for you to photo hundreds of photos. But I knew from my experience, there's so much footage we don't put out because
Yeah.
it's not gonna help you.
But like even though I was not a dancer or just a salsa lover to begin
Yeah.
with, that was not my beginning. It was just more like my brother needed help and I came in. It was really just a good opportunity that fell on my lap.
Mm.
It was, I always saw like because I was thinking to get into graphic design,
Yeah.
but that fell apart. So I was, like going into the medical field, and then photography popped in. I picked that up and it grew into something much bigger than I thought it would ever be,
Mm.
and then it really, like you said in the beginning, it really did help me grow as an individual. It turned like helped me with my confidence, instead of being a person that's in the corner, and now I was able to kind of push myself and interact with people who have a higher status than I do,
Hmm.
and it really helped me understand my adaptability,
Yeah.
you know because I still don't see myself as a top tier photographer. I'm not gonna be, because
Hmm.
like most photographers, they charge for equipment or the time that they have or whoever clients that they've used to work with.
Yeah.
And I've worked with some top dancers. I've worked with other people, but it was I still, I still struggle with myself sometimes as a creator,
Mm.
and it's something that all creators go through because you want your content to speak for itself,
Yeah.
but sometimes you fall into that space where it feels very generic. And it's
Mm.
hard to rediscover that niche sometimes. Well, if that's what I'm going through, is, like trying to rediscover that niche while I'm going through another transition in my life.
Absolutely, because people have to realize, even though we have a camera and we enjoy what we're doing and it can become a passion, we realize that again we are human beings that have our own emotions, go through our own obstacles in life, and realizing too, I think people don't understand. I mean, not say people, but I would say is that a person like yourself that has had the opportunities that you've had with doing these events, the not knowing how much of a smile and a positive effect you do leave on those dancers or even just the people attending. Because for me, being backstage or in the social circle, just having people say like, wow, I actually got a photo of me at this event that honestly is global. Like you said, you got people all over the world
Yeah.
talking about these events that you guys have. And again, it's your media, you're in the rest of the visual artist media that's being put out weekly. And that was a game changer because having weekly events and having that footage being put out that same week or the few days after,
Non-stop
giving,
promotion.
yeah, it's nonstop. It's always hitting you. There's always something. And I
Hmm.
think that was a game changer because there was a time when we had events that you had a calendar website and you can click and find info. But no, you have an event that's constantly weekly giving you more and more. You just saw 5 artists from the local city. Now we got 6 artists from all over the states.
Hmm.
And, just also realizing when you guys would have these themed events, you would have these themed central events. You would have a global event when you would have people not even from the States just coming in to perform. When you would have these Halloween parties, when you would have these New Year's Eve parties, and etc. Just realizing the multitude of just content in general that you guys were giving to the people is something truly to be recognized.
And it really just falls down to just honestly clear promotion and clear leadership,
Yeah.
like like Alex knew what he wanted from Salsa Mania, and he needed to keep the right people to keep it going.
Yeah.
And I even, the one of the big bad, actually, I would actually consider it a bad habit that I picked up from Salsa Mania is we found a good medium. We found a good niche for
Yeah.
Salsa Mania photos and videos. We know how it works. And the only reason why we know it works is the data, the traffic we get. That's how we know that our videos and our photos work. So the style of the way we capture things pretty much stayed the same for the past few years. It hasn't been very experimental. I mean, sure, we do try a few things here and there, but at the end of the day, the style of it is very, it's very Salsa Mania-esque.
Yeah.
And even Social Dance TV, him like Kerr, he told me like he really enjoys how I record my videos. Even though him and I would say that we shoot in pretty similar fashions. When he would have a whole rig and move around, I would more capture the nice angles at which the dancers are coming in. So what I enjoy the most, especially this, is when a couple is turning and I'm able to follow them with that turn, or where I'm able to like predict their turn pattern. I know where I
Yes.
can wait for them. That kind of became the whole pattern for the Salsa Mania videos. So I was kind of like, I knew and learned along the way how to keep the couple in focus, no matter what this move is.
Yeah.
If I wanted more of the woman or if I wanted more of the man, like that's how it came to be.
And that makes a whole lot more sense because what you were talking about with Kirill from Social Dance TV, I completely understand. You guys were having similar focuses, but what I noticed with Kirill, his was a lot more wider,
Hmm.
but it was also the lighting. He had like Congress lighting. It was almost it looked different, but what I loved about yours was that it felt more
Like
raw and it felt like you knew the relationship you had with the dancers showed in your visuals.
I wanted to keep a more spotlight effect. The
Gotcha.
the videos, if you look at them, you can tell like is that one couple very well lit, and all of the couples they just look dark, like
Yeah.
obscured out. And I really like that because I wanted people to not only see the venue for what it is, a packed event, but also see that these are just regular people. These
Yeah.
are not pros. Many of them are not pros. Most of the people that come to our event are not pros.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to highlight, that these are regular people that are lawyers, doctors, construction workers, or translators, or whatever their chefs, whatever their choice may be. And they come in and they all just come in for one purpose, and to dance salsa.
Yeah.
And it's that's why the Latin scene in New York was always really a very good place for people to mingle, a very
Yeah.
good place for people to just really come out and enjoy. And having one of the biggest socials that contributed to that is amazing because people knew where they wanted to go for that experience.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I would say this over the years, what I loved about especially just the advanced events that you guys would have at Dance Sport, to think about the dancers from the last 5 to 6 years that have come from there being novice dancers to being people who take classes to now being teachers and instructors, but also realizing the historical factor of also the content you were creating. Because again, as I tell many people, long after we're gone, the media, the content that people like me and you put out will be here long after we're here, and it's
Absolutely.
historic. Yeah, it's great documentation, to because again in New York, dance is seen as something very central, and to be in a Latin dance spectrum and say like, hey, where was a place that people would go? It was Salsa Mania. No matter how many events we've had throughout, Salsa Mania still was one of the top,
I
and that's
mean,
because
yeah, I was sorry to cut you off. I mean, like you pretty much hit it right on that, that point, that you giving me the time to talk about how we made all this happen and how we captured it. At the end of the day, the main focus was always going to be the dancer and the event itself. Because you see videos of Frankie Martinez,
yeah.
Franklin Diaz, Tito, sorry, not Tito. I was gonna say Tito Nieves, but what's his name? Eddie Torres
Yes.
and Junior. You know, like they, and especially Eddie Senior, videos of him, and those outlasted many people in the scene.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show how much it's important to document these events, and how much it is to put focus on the dancers and the people that come in and attend, and the pros, because that's what it's really about, keeping this alive, making sure that this thrives and keeps on thriving. Because like, look at where we are now.
Yeah.
Salsa Mania had a great run, and you know, there have been many points where we were just thinking like, should we call it quits? Should we not? Should we hold off? Should we just, you know, move on to something else? Because if it was not Alex back in 2008, 2009, it would have been somebody else, you know, because that's just the way this is, you know, it recycles. And we being part of it is a blessing, because we really got to be a very crucial part in growing the salsa scene and advancing it, you know, in terms of its promotion, its platform, the stage for new dancers to come in and showcase, you know. And many times they would come in and ask like, how did we do? And I would give them honest feedback. I'm like, eh.
No, and honestly, that was something I loved, because your honesty. Because again, if people are gonna ask you questions about maybe how they performed or how that shot looked, and you just being totally transparent and honest, because I think that's what a lot of people, that's what New York is kind of about. We're very brute honest with you. And like you said, a key thing was when you talked about Eddie, and was that his stuff outlasted so many dancers and groups that have coming. Because like, honestly, there's been, I would say, thousands, over 1,000, close to, showcases, performances from your events, and you have seen so many dancers come and go.
Absolutely.
It's so it just becomes redundant, and it kind of is a revolving door. But like you said, there's specific artists that really still kind of hold that place in your heart, and that's definitely a lesson learned. And I think now it helps me transition before we really get into the present and understanding the future. It's a segment that I love to do called the randoms, which is 10 questions that I have that kind of allow myself and the audience to get to know you a little bit better. You know, it definitely will get a little bit interesting, but hopefully it should be fun. So definitely let me know when you are ready.
I'm ready for this. I'm ready for your 10 questions.
All right. Number 1 is your favorite food.
Oh, sushi.
Okay. Number 2 is, what is your worst filming moment?
My worst filming moment, meaning that one a gig that I did.
Something that you've done, either you were filming something and something went completely wrong on your end or their end.
Yeah, actually, I remember I was doing a gig for one from one. He was a very new artist, first song, and he wanted to get a music video done. So I was part of it. He wanted me to record it. During the shoot, he was like, I'm not liking this. He grabbed his camera, because I wasn't using my camera. I was using a different camera. He grabbed the camera and he just gave it to somebody that was next to, like, you do it. You do a better job. And that was really like at the very beginning of it. So I was
okay. Like, but still.
Like, yeah, and he was like, he took the camera, he's like, you do it. And I was just like, wow, okay.
I mean, I love it. I love the honesty. The next question is your dream vacation destination.
Tahiti. I want to visit Tahiti. Definitely want to visit Tahiti. Either Tahiti or Bora Bora. One of those two.
Oh man, I've overheard so much good things about Bora Bora. Hopefully, when things are a lot better, we could definitely.
I want to visit it. I want to visit it really bad.
Let me see. The next one is, what did you want to be when you were 10 years old?
At 10 years old, I was so in love with video games, and I wanted to be a game developer at the time. I wanted to make video games. Okay. I had a Nintendo GameCube, and I was just so obsessed with it.
Oh man! Well, I'm assuming you were a Super Smash Brothers person.
Oh yeah. But I was more into Tekken though. I was.
Ooh, okay.
I was
I
always
like that.
Sony. I was always Sony. I was Sony since day one.
Okay. Who's your favorite Tekken fighter then?
At Law still is
Okay, I respect it. I definitely respect it. Let me see. Next
OG
question.
character.
Next question is, and this might really take you back. What is your favorite dance event that you've ever been a part of or been to?
Ooh, part of or ever been to? You know, it sucks to say, but I haven't been to many. Congresses. I've been to congresses, but I haven't been to many dance events. One dance event honestly, I want to say ADC should be the answer, but I have never been to it yet.
Okay.
So
Uh,
like in my head, I know if I ever went to ADC, I would say it.
okay. Well, I
But
mean, definitely, hopefully in the future for sure.
well, hopefully. But if for right now, place event that I've been to, like the Houston Salsa Congress.
Okay. Absolutely. I like that answer. Next question is, do you as a filmmaker, when you're filming dance events or salsa socials that we could say, do you like routines that are more partner work based or do you love footwork routines more?
That's a good question. But I would say that I like more solos or more footwork because I feel you have more responsibility to make it work. And with partner work, I feel people get lost in it. And sometimes they can't really appreciate the dance because it's either oversaturated with turns or other tricks. And if you're doing footwork or solo, you have a much bigger responsibility of nailing it and really entrancing the crowd with it. And honestly, I enjoy doing solos more mainly because I have a higher expectation for them. And once they nail it, it just makes it more satisfying.
I love it. Next one would be your favorite camera. And we're talking about Nikon, Sony's, Lumix, you name it. What's kind of your ultimate go to if you could have one?
Well, it was if you would have asked me that question at the beginning of the year, I would have said Sony.
Okay.
But I've always been a Canon user, and I was always expecting more of it. And throughout the past few years, has been kind of disappointing. But this year looks good for Canon, so
I mean,
I'm gonna
yeah.
take back Sony and put Canon back in first place.
Yeah, I mean, that new M50 I've seen about, that's really
No, this
pretty.
is the R5.
Oh, they are five.
Yeah, the
Okay.
brand new that came out only a few like last month.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out. Next question would be, who are three people that are most influential to you at this point?
Oh, definitely. One of them is Franklin. Franklin influenced and mentored me so much to photography. He's definitely one of the three that's heavily influenced me. And second and third, second also would be Ramon Brito.
Yes.
The guy's been such a badass. He was a dancer, then he became a parent,
Yeah.
then he became a photographer. So the guy does it all. The guy is really very motivating. And the third person who's influenced me. Oh man, I haven't thought far as a third person, but I should because like there are a lot of people I've had a blessing of meeting and learning from. I've never really sat down to think who I would rank as, you know, an order. But the only person that always comes to mind would be just Franklin because he's always the
Yeah.
one that stuck it through with me.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely love Franklin. I knew Franklin before he was a photographer and when he was part of Los Divos with Gene Veragay. And I remember that years ago. But that's amazing, especially giving that love and recognition to Franklin because, again, Franklin is a superb photographer. The work he's doing now, I mean, he's traveling all over the world, even not just being a photographer, but also a dancer still. And when we had these competitive events, I mean, every year he would be doing it with someone.
Oh yeah, and yeah, he's a great coach. He's a really great coach, and I think in terms of how many countries he's traveled, I think he's in his 50s now.
Oh,
And that's a goal right there. That's a
uh,
goal.
I mean, you guys. I believe you guys went to Iceland,
Twice.
and the photos that I seen were like immaculate. I
Oh
mean,
man.
I don't even know if there was too much editing, but they looked awesome.
No, some of those photos were actually not weren't that heavily edited. You know, like the photos that you could see Franklin post up. He even has a
Yeah.
photo book on it. He even published a book about his second trip to Iceland, the second project we worked on together there. And yeah, that was a really great experience. Like, you know, he was never shy to ask or invite us to go to places with him.
And that helped too, really, to bring the camaraderie. And honestly, I think that's something really special. The second before last question I have is, what is a special talent that many people would know or wouldn't know about you?
Hmm. I wouldn't I wouldn't know if I would call it a talent, but I actually have a plaque on it right there. This one.
Yeah.
That one actually says it's an acknowledgement of my membership in college, and also this, like, they call me Snapple because I always had a fun fact. So like trivia was always my best game, because
Okay.
I like Jeopardy. Trivia was always my best game because I was just like always had an abundance of random knowledge.
That's special. I mean, to be honest, thinking about it, like a person like yourself that just has so much knowledge to offer, those are the people we need to hold on to, because I mean, we realize the people we come in contact with, some people really are just not knowledgeable on things and kind of just spew their own facts or fiction. So, I mean, honestly, I would say from our many talks throughout the years, you definitely are a very knowledgeable person.
I thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. It's I'm very curious. You know,
Yeah.
I see something and I want, like, even when I'm watching a movie and I hear a word I don't understand or something that I don't understand, I'm just like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know?
You're very inquisitive. I think
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
perfect word. And the last question I have, and this definitely gets people, is if you were on an island, what
Mm,
are three things that you would have to have with you?
mm. You know, surprising. I've thought about that question a lot, and people think that I would say my camera, but my camera wouldn't be one of them. You know, because I'm on an island, and like I was like,
Thank you.
I wouldn't want my camera with me.
It's gonna die. It's gonna.
Yeah, eventually it's just gonna die. So I was like, you know, definitely not my camera. But three things. So okay, so let's say, considering that things never die there.
Okay.
So okay, so I'll just say like my camera would be one, even though typically I wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
Second thing, I'll be definitely taking a bunch of weed.
Okay. There you go.
And then thirdly, probably my PlayStation, to be very honest.
All right. PlayStation 2, 3.
5.
Oh, okay. Okay. We're not even going classic. We're going
No,
straight.
no, 5.
All right.
If I'm gonna die tonight, I want to see the best definition of it.
I don't blame you, man. And again, I thank you for taking this quick little segment, because I think it allowed me really to get to know you better, even if I didn't feel like I've known you a lot thus far. But again, I thank you. It's definitely fun, knowing that your favorite food is sushi. Just, and especially when it comes to those three things on the island, or the question about the most influential, I notice those are the ones that really get people in their mind. So
Yeah,
just seeing how you were working, I love it.
it's also because like I have an interest in, like, like just recently I just started learning guitar, so I'm just
Oh
kind of
wow,
like, and I was just thinking about it. I'm like, would I want to take my guitar with me now?
there you go.
It's, things change over time. Like I had thought about that. I would thought about, like, on my computer, my phone, my game, and my camera. But now I'm thinking, like, like I'm learning guitar and I'm enjoying it so much.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking. Like, would I want to take my guitar?
man. See, now I even know you play guitar. This is something else I'm
Oh,
learning about.
I just started learning it like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. So now that, and again, thank you for this part. So now, transitioning into understanding throughout the years, You film so much. Your camera has so much memory on it of just the constant events you've done over the years. And now we get into 2020.
Hmm.
And we've talked as well. And I remember you had told me that one of your last events that you were at was around February, March time.
Right.
And like you said, Salsa Mania, Candela Fridays, Bachata Mania has come, and you're realizing how big, again, your events are becoming staples in New York. Year after year, you're getting an influx of just new attendees, and then COVID hits. And it really, again, it took our dance community, in my opinion, a complete 180. And for me, I've always asked these questions to many of the artists that I know, but coming from yourself, how was it when really COVID hit, and how did it affect you?
This will be a selfish answer, but I was actually thankful that I could sleep on weekends.
Okay.
But because like bro, since 2011,
Yeah, you don't get
every
it.
weekend, and sometimes we had those 2 nights in a weekend type thing,
Yes.
and on top of that, I was working. You know, so I would like get home 6, 7 a.m. and then have my shift at 9:30 or 11. That was the one thing that I was like, like when it stopped, I was like, wow, I can actually sleep on the weekends now.
Damn.
But at the end of the day, like, people don't really realize that. Yeah, like people they leave at 10 o'clock, go home, sleep. But then they don't realize if we have an event the next day, that we have to be there earlier than
Yeah.
everybody and set up. It gets tiring, especially if we're drinking the night before. So yeah, the after effect was mainly that I just missed everybody. Because being the photographer and being a key member in the Salsa Mania team, it's inevitable that people will gravitate towards me.
Yeah.
People will want to get to know me because I'm the guy taking the photos. I'm the one taking the videos. So people will naturally gravitate towards me, strike up a conversation, want to know about the videos, or have a
Hmm.
question about photography. So meeting all those people along the way in that way, I miss them. Like I
Yeah.
miss seeing people like Andrew, Melanie, Angel, Stephanie, Ernesto, Denise, Delia, everybody, like the Rumbaya team. Like I miss when they would come by,
Yeah.
and it would be an event in itself for me when I'm just chilling and all of a sudden randomly Ernesto comes in and he's like, shh, I'm just gonna go surprise Alex. That in itself was just like such a nice surprise or a nice event when people come out, pro dancers who in themselves have very busy schedules, and they would just
Yeah.
come in and just surprise us, stay for like an hour or two, and then just leave. It would be cool, and I enjoyed that. I really did,
Yeah.
because it gave such a personal connection to them. Even though we would only know each other at the social, it was still very nice to know that they knew who I was,
Yeah.
and I could talk to them, interact with them, work with them, hang with them, you know talk to
Nah.
them over a drink.
I definitely agree because again, like you said, from your over the years of just everything you've been able to do, I think it's so important that we understood that you were building relationships with people, maybe not intentionally, but I mean, it does happen over the years. I mean, you being a person that is a part of that media team and that the artists want to be seen, they'll build that friendship relationship with you. And a lot of times, like you said, over the years, that friendship becomes a true bond. And, it's moments like this when we don't have that, that you really do miss it. And you see what kind of we take for granted.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. But I'm a pretty selective person when it comes to people. So you see, the thing is that I'm a friendly to everyone. I can acquaint myself to everyone. I will introduce myself to everyone. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean I'm gonna go hang out with you. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean I'm gonna invite you to lunch or have you come over.
Yeah.
Just like people always say, like, I them. Why don't you go ask them, or ask them for this? I'm like, just because I talk to them and know them, that doesn't mean I can just do whatever I want with them.
Yeah.
You know? And at the same
Absolutely.
time, I don't want them to treat me that way too, which is what we were talking about earlier when people were like, hey, Chomio, it's been a long time. I loved your work. I have this idea. I was like, okay, so it's this much. Like, oh, I was thinking that it would be free.
Oh, see that is
You
that
know,
is those that word free.
yeah, that's what made me very cautious of the people I hang out with.
Wow, and realizing, for me, I guess, understanding from your perspective that even with the amount of work you've been able to do over the years, and the relationships you've been able to build, there were moments that people that you've come in contact with in this dance world wanted to use your services for their own benefit only, but also in a kind of a barter system or free. Because people have to realize, like you said, you're 3 cameras later in. People don't understand how much money
No,
goes
yeah,
into the equipment itself, but to realize that you're offering a service and you should be paid for that service. And I
right.
think that's what a lot of visual artists fell into that rut, was a lot of people that wanted to work with them didn't appreciate that they too run a business and that it's not always about a discount. It's not always about having handouts. You also should appreciate the person that is giving you that service and pay them promptly, because I think, again, people have to understand. And when it comes to money too, if you're working with someone you consider a friend, make sure they're getting compensated, because it shouldn't just be about you getting some content from a content creator and they're not getting anything in return.
Yeah, it bugs me, but it comes down to it actually that made me self-reflect a lot because I remember a time where many people would come to me and ask me to do stuff for free. And then it just got me thinking. It's kind of like, damn, it's just like, am I doing something wrong? Like,
Yeah.
like, well, like, why am I giving people a reason to take advantage of this? And then it just made me realize that it really just comes down to credibility. You
Yeah.
know, are you a credible artist? Are you worth the time? Are you worth the investment? And that's something that's really I've only recently started to see flourish. When people would in the beginning, like go back 2016, 17, I barely had people come up to me, asking
Yeah.
for photo shoots, but now people are reaching out to me, and it's a great feeling, and it's a change that I'm not used to yet,
Yeah.
having higher demand. And it's been a long time coming for me, and it's been a long mental journey for myself, and trying to just convince myself that your work is worth the time. You
Yeah.
are worth the effort, you are worth the investment. And it's hard, like, I have to keep reminding myself that. And because of that, when you spend so much time or so many years in that kind of state,
Hmm.
and then when things finally start to make a little sense, you're just like, it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah. You gotta start back at square one.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I've just have to really keep drilling in my head and keep telling myself that I shouldn't be giving out stuff for free. I
Yeah.
have to, put my foot down and be like, listen, this is my time, my work. If you want me, if you want my work or my contribution or my collaboration, it's worth this much.
Absolutely.
And I have to just keep trying to, drill it, practicing that and speaking that into existence, and really just convince and gain the credibility that I am worth it.
Absolutely. And I agree, because I always say too, and I think you've told me this a long time ago, was even though you have a camera, that doesn't make you a photographer. It doesn't make you a videographer. I think that really too put a lot in my mind, is you have to put the time in, because just because you buy a fancy camera or the new Canon R5 doesn't make you this top of the line digital person. It really takes the effort, the time. You got to put the work in. And, honestly, just really kind of going over your story, just really realizing how much work you put in, how much work you've dedicated. Because, like you said, from 2011 to kind of now, you really your schedule, your life on a weekend. If you think about it, like how many weekends you really were just focused on being at this event.
You have no idea how many parties or club nights or other big events that I've missed just because of Salsa Mania. There have been so many events that I would have rather like, yeah, I wouldn't say rather gone to, but it's just like I just missed the opportunity of going because of Salsa Mania.
Hmm.
You know, it's like because Salsa Mania has become a really like no matter how many times I would complain about how tired I was, like I was still really joyful to go.
Yeah.
I was happy to go, like because I get to work with Alex, even though he most of the time was a pain in the ass, but at the end of the day, he's still my brother.
Yeah.
Like what brother is no pain in the ass?
I feel
So,
you.
and yeah, it was just more like I accepted that I will be missing out on these things and putting my time and effort into Salsa Mania. It's kind of like, when people have their first kid and they miss out on every other cool thing happening in their friend's life, or
Yeah.
it was just a matter of where I placed my responsibilities. Now, later down the line, earlier, maybe sorry, like maybe earlier, I could have made things differently,
Hmm.
but ultimately it worked out.
I feel you. I agree on that. And at least, before we go, I would love to understand what you feel your future and the outlook on the future kind of the dance scene is looking like. And, because I think, again, it is very important from a person like yourself that's just seen this scene grow throughout the years and now what we're going through. What do you kind of really feel the future is?
Well, as a photographer, as media in general, there is a higher demand, for us now since things are converting to more digital.
Yeah.
However, the essence of dancing itself, is really in trouble. Really,
Yeah.
it's like there's no clear end or there's no clear time frame as to when people will go back to socials. People right now are having their own socials and there's like 20, 30, 50, close to 80 people having a party during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And people, oh my god, you have no idea how many messages we get on our Facebook pages like, oh, when are you having your social, when are you opening, and people just like still don't get it. When
Yeah.
COVID first happened, I told Alex, because Alex was contemplating whether or not to close the social, and I'm like, listen, would you rather be known as the person who closed the social, thinking about his people, thinking about his
Hmm.
community, and closing it down because you see that there's a threat on its way?
Hmm.
And what are you going to do? Are you going to take action and protect your community, protect your following, and close? Or just be like, fuck it, whatever happens, happens? And you see now, like what happened with a lot of people that did not close.
Yep.
Like how much flack they got for it. How much the community looked down on them and frowned upon them, saying like, "Listen, you're dumb. Like, why didn't you stop when you had the chance? Now look at what you caused." Like whether or not you had intention of doing it or not, you people still got sick at your place,
Yes.
and it's because of your negligence.
It's true. And to be honest, I applauded. I never got a chance to tell Alex, but I really wanted to applaud him for making that decision because, again, as a business person, it is very hard because you don't know when it can come back. But
Yeah.
realizing that the people mean more than money, that holds something very special because I've seen throughout the states, places doing it unsafely, me being a person who's speaking out about it, but also realizing that a lot of these people who are throwing these events that I found out, I knew personally, I maybe have done business with. And now my relationships with people change because I'm thinking about the people. I'm
Yeah.
not thinking about the next visual because again with this virus covid it affects our community heavily because what do we love to do, be connected. We can't have a social with the amount of attendance salsa mania could have and pretend like there's no pandemic.
Yeah, it's just like really like in March we could have easily had an event and had like 150, 200 turnout. but that's 200 people with possible infections. And they always say like one person within 2 weeks infecting another 50 people.
Yeah.
Bro, that's
It
like that's insane.
and again, for me realizing again over the years what you, what Alex, what Franklin, what Josh, what Ricardo, but ultimately the whole family you guys have, and I mean that family aspect. Again, over the years, I've been able just to see all the visuals, everything you've been able to create, or you all have been creating. And now what we've been going through makes us self-reflect, like you said. And
Hmm.
for me, it's been able to allow me to self-reflect and appreciate even more the contributions that all of you have made, because again, you've taken the time and the effort and the patience to create content for the people. And again, I'm glad that I've been able to have you on tonight because again, like you said earlier with Alex, was he had pieces in play, but they were very quiet. And I knew for yourself that I've known many years, you have a quiet tendency, but for me to have this platform and just to have you on tonight, it means the world because it has always been about celebrating the success that you've had.
I
You know.
appreciate that, bro. I really do. It's very, very kind of you to really extend out an invitation to be on your show because really, like, this is an unusual experience for me at the same time. But being on it really it's a nice feeling because not a lot of photographers or not a lot of creators get to be in a spotlight where they can talk about their contribution into. I mean, people acknowledge it, don't get me wrong, people like but at the same time, how many photos do you see shared around and people forget who actually took the photo?
Yeah.
And that's the thing we have to get used to. At the end of the day, like, there are videos recorded for Eddie Torres, photos taken by Eddie Torres, and people forgot who took them.
Yep.
It's gonna happen inevitably. People are just gonna remember Salsamania and most likely Alex, and people probably won't remember Franklin, probably won't remember me.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I'd say this. I'd beg to differ from knowing both of you and everything you guys have done, everything you've contributed. This is a moment for me that I'm glad that I can have because, again, to have you here, even though not physically, to tell you how much I thank you for what you've done
I
throughout
appreciate
the
that.
years and taking your time out because you could have been doing so much other things, but doing what you've done, the kudos is to you. But at least,
Thank you, brother.
before we do go, I would love to know if you had any last few words for myself and also contact information or maybe how people can reach you if they would love to have a photographer.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but like before that, I do want to give you a big shout out, bro, because I see when we first met, you were just a guy who had fun dancing and shaking his gigantic mane around, and you were just a bundle of joy to watch then. And then you see you shine up to go be a performer, and then you were dancing and you kept dancing more, and then you joined the army, and then you got into filmmaking, you got into photography, and I believe you're doing something more technical, like tech work, like trade work.
Yeah, I'm a cook now. I do have a lot of facets.
Right. And now you're doing this podcast situation and you're doing the show, and it just, like, it's incredible to see how you've adapted and how you've grown and really experimented throughout the years. And it's just this whole thing, this whole conversation between us
Yeah,
two is just, creator to creator. It's just a nice appreciation, like a virtual tap, like a tap on the back type thing.
yeah. Absolutely, man. I mean, again, like you said, over the years, for me, I've done in the same way. I've tried to reinvent myself, just like you have, of always somehow laying my groundwork in some capacity and evolving from being a performer to being behind the scenes visually. Now taking a more of a public role of saying, hey, I want to be a voice of our community from a person who's been doing it a really long time. I may not be in a fancy school, but I've been around a lot longer than most of your performers. So
Yeah.
I've seen them when they first started. So my relationship is different. But most of all, I do it because I want to show the recognition to so many artists like yourself that you do matter.
Thank you, brother. And you as well, because you're using your platform to talk about this and share the spotlight with everybody, no matter how small or big, isn't it's all in itself and very impressive and very astounding and worth the effort and applause, bro.
Thank you, my brother, man. And at least before we do go, how if people can reach out to you, because we know you do photography. What is the best way people can get in contact with you?
Really on my Instagram at Chomeo Photography. That is the best way to get in contact with me. I'm very punctual when it comes to answering that. You can also email me at that same Chomeo Photography at gmail.com, or just one of those two. Honestly, it's there on my Instagram. I'm working on the website. I messed it up, but I'm working on it. I'm fixing it.
Man, but again, brother, man, I've had a pleasure of having you on. I'm thankful we can be able to do this.
Pleasure's all mine, brother. It was
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Again, I want you to stay safe out there. I definitely can't wait for people to see this because, again, we are able now to appreciate you not just for what you've done for the dance community, but what you do as a human being.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate those words. Very, very kind words, bro.
Absolutely.
I had a really good time. I was nervous about it at first, but I had a good time. It was really good talking to you.
Absolutely, man. Again, I'm glad that we can do this. I definitely can't wait to see what you're doing in the future. So again,
Can't wait either.
definitely stay safe out there, and we'll definitely, even though this is your first interview, I'd love to have you on for next year's seasons that we have coming up and see what you're up to doing. But again, thank you for your time, your patience, and we'll definitely be talking soon.
Thank you, my brother. Talk soon to you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Thank you, audience, and see you next time.
Have a good night, brother. Be safe.
Be safe.